Well, welcome and happy Monday, everyone. Josh's severe weather tracking a storm, which is likely to be our next depression, and then tropical storm Melissa across the southeastern Caribbean Sea. This system has the potential to not only become a hurricane eventually, but to slow down and cause a lot of rain to fall, perhaps causing devastation for some in the central Caribbean. And unfortunately, the track of it will be very uncertain due to some complex factors steering the storm as we get later into the week and next week. So this video is going to break down what's going on now, what we do know, what the models are showing as possibilities and why they're showing that, and if we may see some impacts later on across the United States and other portions of the world. I appreciate you joining me here on this Monday. I know I've been off for a little bit, enjoying some time with family, but it is back to work and business as usual here. Hope you all have had a great day, and we're going to get to it here, starting off with the National Hurricane Center displaying a high risk of development in the next day or so. We do have a tropical wave, which is south of Puerto Rico, north of Venezuela. The odds of it becoming a tropical storm are pretty high, up to 90% now over the next 7 days. Right now, we don't have aircraft flying into the storm until tomorrow afternoon around this time. So it'll be 24 hours before we can confirm this is, in fact, a tropical storm, although satellite imagery could give us that upgrade before then. However, things are starting to come into shape at this time. The storm is still moving pretty quickly into wind shear, so there will still be some time it needs to organize itself and to close off a surface low pressure system. But conditions look like they'll be supportive of that happening here in the next couple of days as the storm does slow down. Regardless, we're going to be talking about impacts across a good chunk of the Caribbean Sea. With the fact that we're dealing with a storm system that is going to slow down quite a bit and produce a lot of rain in areas that just haven't seen much this tropics season. It's been an active season way out across the subtropical Atlantic, but the Gulf and Caribbean have been awfully quiet. Now, those in the Caribbean, unfortunately, are going to be paying for that with the fact that we will have a slow moving system that will likely last through at least the weekend. And there's a decent chance into next week, even a chance into the beginning of November, depending on how this plays out. So those of you that are watching from Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica, and Cuba should be watching this very closely for the risk of flooding, rainfall, strong winds, and rough surf. So those of you in the Bahamas and in the Turks and Caicos, Central America, the Cayman Islands, even Florida and the Yucatan Peninsula should just at least at this point keep an eye on it for the time being. So here you can see the area likely to see that development in the red. And that area is pretty much the bulk of the Caribbean, the South Central and Southwestern Caribbean, where water temperatures are awfully warm, 30 degrees Celsius or more. And that is also the area that has the highest amount of heat potential across the entire Atlantic basin. And that heat potential isn't just how warm the waters are at the surface. Those waters are quite warm, but how deep that warm water extends into the deeper portions of the ocean, meaning we've got a lot of storm fuel in place across the central and western Caribbean Sea. So that, of course, would be of concern if this storm manages to remain in a favorable environment to strengthen. Here's a look at the Atlantic Basin, and you'll see it's very clear where our system is right now over the eastern Caribbean, getting larger in size and taking up much of the eastern third of the Caribbean Sea. There's disturbed weather as well over the southwestern Caribbean, which is not associated with this system. And then other than that, there's really nothing we're going to be talking about in this video. I do want to pretty much spend most of the time talking about what's going on here with future Melissa. Now, we do have a delay in satellite imagery. That's due to the Amazon Web Services outages I'm sure you've heard about. So we're going to work with what we have, but taking a look at water vapor imagery, you can see what's setting up the scenario for this system to strengthen. There is some westerly wind shear across the Caribbean Sea coming along the base of a trough, which extends like this. That trough is going to complicate the steering of this system when we get into the next couple of days. There's an area of high pressure to the northeast. There's an area of high pressure aloft to the northwest. And in between, we're going to see an area of much weaker steering, which will take the system to a place where the growing amount of uncertainty once it gets to the south and west of Haiti and to the south of Jamaica, assuming it gets that far west. Looking at the visible satellite image, you see a system that looks pretty healthy at first glance, but there's a lot more going on underneath the hood here that we do need to examine. First things first, we do have a well-established mid-level circulation here, but because of the wind shear out of the west and the fact that this system is racing westward and has a fast easterly motion, it has not yet taken its time organizing a low-level center just yet. So the mid-level spin is in here. We're seeing now on some of the advanced scatterometer data that the low-level center is actually trying to form somewhere in here. And until these two can jive with each other, the system is going to remain somewhat poorly organized. And as a result, it's not going to be in a hurry to strengthen, but it may still overachieve. We've seen that happen quite a bit. We don't want to rule out the possibility that this thing does, in fact, intensify. It's in a good spot to do so. It's far enough north of South America where it won't be impacted by that. It's far enough south of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola where the mountains do not come in play. And water temperatures are quite warm and relative humidity is climbing. Now, if you look at the satellite or the radar imagery from the ABC Islands, I like to call them ACB because Curacao is between A and B, Aruba and Bonaire. It is kind of apparent that there's a bit of a low-level center to the northeast of Bonaire. That's the easternmost island. Now, the mid-level center is up in here. You can't really see that on radar, but you see the two are distanced apart by about 100 miles. That right now tells me we don't quite have a tropical depression or storm just yet. Also, we had ASCAT or ASCAT scatterometer scan of what may be going on, and that shows that there's still a bit of a trough in here. And the thing that points that out to me is that we have light southerly winds down in here on this side and light northerly winds in here, and there's not a strong enough circulation. All the strong winds are to the north and east where our mid-level center is. So right now, we still have a little bit of work to do before this can be classified a tropical cyclone. Now, I don't think we're super far from that happening, but the main reason this hasn't become a tropical cyclone, even though it's survived crossing the southern portion of the tropics, is that it's moved so quickly. It's been moving at a speed of 25 to 30 miles per hour. And it's like a toddler that runs before it learns to walk at maybe 15 months. Those of you little kids probably know what I'm talking about. Running so fast that it hasn't got the coordination yet to get its act together. But we do think over time, as you can see, it's starting to slow down a little bit, that will certainly become the case. Now, here's where things get interesting and honestly frustrating to me as a meteorologist. Where is this sucker going to go? And you can see on the map here, the certainty is pretty high that it's going to continue west or west-northwesterly for the next couple of days. Then after that, the spread becomes incredibly big. And the reason why is that we're going to have some interesting steering currents setting up with an area of high pressure here setting up northeasterly flow, and then an area of high pressure here setting up southwesterly flow, and then a weakness in here. Now, what can happen is if this storm develops and gets on the northern side here, it gets picked up and drawn around this portion of the trough, and that brings the system over Hispaniola, which would be awful for Haiti and Dominican Republic for sure, and could be bad for portions of Puerto Rico. However, if the storm system does not get its act together quite so quickly and finds a way to slip underneath, then it gets stuck in an area where the steering currents are going to be a lot weaker. And then we have a system that's in here and very undecided on where to go next. It could still find a way westward for a while, but remember, we've got a ridge out in here which may block it. So it's not just necessarily going to cross Central America and be done. It could stall and maybe swirl around in the Western Caribbean or even try to come back towards Cuba. There's also the possibility that it sticks around Jamaica for all the weekend and maybe even into next week. And eventually a trough will come down and scoop it up to the north. There's also a chance that it could literally linger for several days and maybe eventually get pulled back around to the north and northeast. And that's just over the next 10 days. After that, we're not even going to talk yet about what could happen next, because we are now to the time of the year where we see troughs digging in farther south and cut off lows. And sometimes those steer these storms back towards the United States. And if you don't believe me, look back at Hurricane Sandy back in 2013. We're not saying that's necessarily the case, but if you go back and look at some of the European model runs, you'll see that that possibility is there. So as we look ahead to what the ensembles are showing, the spread gets extremely big as we get to Friday night and Saturday morning, with the possibility that this thing is in the Southwest Caribbean or near Jamaica or past Haiti and all the way up into the Turks and Caicos or even beyond. And that has extreme amounts of uncertainty at this point. And I don't know yet how this is going to play out, although the longer the system takes to form a low-level center, the more likely it's going to try to trend more westerly and not make the bend quickly up into the Dominican Republic or Haiti, but that is still a possibility. Having said that, the ensemble trends have been shifting right a little bit, although still showing some impacts to Haiti, Jamaica, and Cuba at the moment, maybe even the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos after that. But this is an average of every possibility. And you can see there's a lot of uncertainty as the system is going to be slowing down around 74 and 75 west. And I hope y'all like spaghetti. Maybe bring the fork in the road with you and start eating, because that's what we're going to be staring at here. European ensemble from earlier today showing that split. It's about 50-50 with a turn northeast or a pullback to the west. And there are some stronger solutions if this manages to stay south of Jamaica and go into that hot bathwater. The GFS strengthens it even faster and brings it up over Haiti, some solutions over Dominican Republic, and fewer solutions towards Jamaica and over Cuba, which would be the possibility that this system never affects the United States or even Western or Central Cuba. So the Canadian, which is sort of like the GFS, but farther west, shows, believe it or not, some chances down the road. We'll have to watch it up on the eastern seaboard and in Bermuda. But a weaker system than what the GFS is showing, but still potentially a hurricane moving somewhere through the central Caribbean. Still a chance, though, it could come farther to the west. The Icon model, this one is extremely split. It's got a weaker system pulling northeast, or equally a system that gets pulled back to the west and maybe even makes it into the Western Caribbean, possibly even towards Nicaragua or Honduras. The European AIFS is pretty set on this thing recurving through Hispaniola, possibly Jamaica and eastern Cuba, and then heading out to sea and likely not a threat to land after that. And then the Google DeepMind, which, believe it or not, I thought has done a fairly decent job so far. It's about 50-50. And the reason why this map is so big is because of the uncertainty that just grows over time. About half the models do take it northeastward over Hispaniola, but we have about a third of them that stall it just south of Haiti and then push it around towards Cuba and over the western Bahamas. And then another third that push it south of Jamaica, flirting with portions of Honduras and Nicaragua, and eventually going through central Cuba and then up through the Bahamas, and more than likely out to sea. But up in here, we obviously have to watch the East Coast. Here's a closer look at how that plays out. You can see all is looking fine and dandy as we get through tomorrow night and Wednesday morning. Then the big split happens and things branch off very quickly here on Wednesday morning. Now, at this point, we likely have a tropical storm, Melissa. I would call her Sweet Melissa, but she doesn't know what she wants to do. Now, we've got some ensemble members that are already pulling this northward towards the south coast of Haiti as a hurricane, in fact, a stronger hurricane. So it would rapidly intensify and very quickly fuel the trough and move inland into Haiti Thursday or Thursday night. That would be awfully bad for Haiti and certainly for the western portion of Dominican Republic as well. We have several other solutions which are strengthening but stalling the system at a much slower rate. And then we have some that continue at west that are weaker. So the weaker the system, the more likely it does not feel that bend and continues slowly west. Now, the other challenge we have here is that we've got several solutions that are strengthening the system and stalling it to the south of Haiti and not actually making landfall at this point. And this is Saturday morning. So a third of these models are off and over Hispaniola and moving out. A third of them are playing around, maybe not even making landfall, which would be disastrous for Haiti. And the other third are pushing it back to the west near south portions of Haiti and maybe even getting closer to Jamaica. And those are the ones that have a higher ceiling on intensity and the ones that we need to watch if we're in Jamaica and certainly in Central America as well. And beyond that, you can see the uncertainty grows substantially. And when we get 8 days from today, the solutions can range from an out-to-sea storm to a Category 5 hurricane between Jamaica and Cuba to a Category 4 or 5 hurricane near Honduras to a system that never really develops and just goes west into Central America to a system that is spending multiple days over Hispaniola, causing tremendous flooding. There's just a heck of a lot of uncertainty at this point. I just don't have the answer. And in fact, you can see here, I circled it. This is the absolute extreme case, but a Hurricane Wilma type scenario or Hurricane Mitch type scenario is certainly still on the table because of how hot the waters are. As the wind shear lessens, if this finds a way to escape going west of Jamaica into the Northwest Caribbean, it very well could be a disastrous hurricane. But where does it go from there? Again, we don't really know. So if we look at the spaghetti plots for our operational models, we see that huge spread, and about a third of the models going through Haiti, a third coming up between Jamaica and Haiti, and then we've got some that continue to bend at west, heading towards the Western Caribbean. And the most recent model runs actually have a little bit more threatening Haiti and fewer that are threatening Jamaica, and still some that are going west. The intensity forecast is highly uncertain. We are pretty confident this is going to be a tropical storm once that center closes off. That could happen tonight or tomorrow morning. It could even be happening now. I wish we could see the satellite data to actually see that. But nonetheless, it's likely to happen. And then we have a couple of regional tropical models, which do, in fact, keep this system just far enough south of Haiti where it could become a major hurricane. But more than likely, we're looking at a Category 1 storm, possibly a Category 2 storm. And I wouldn't be completely shocked if it remained a tropical storm if it, in fact, interacted with that land sooner. Here's a look at some of our models here real quick. The GFS operational is the one that has been gung-ho about this thing strengthening very quickly into a Category 2 storm, and then making landfall on Thursday in southeastern Haiti and then crossing Dominican Republic. And unfortunately, it's just not out of there. It's circling around for several days, not leaving until we get to Sunday, causing probably tremendous amounts of rain over Hispaniola and even the Turks and Caicos. And then eventually it accelerates northeast early next week, and then things quiet down after that. We're going to move this video along. The European, which just came in, continues this system on a more westerly track. It does not make that turn towards Haiti. It has a tropical storm, which is getting closer to Jamaica and then slowing to a halt as we get towards Friday and Saturday. And as it does so, it's over Bathwater and allowed to strengthen substantially. And the European has a strengthening hurricane that is actually futzing around here south of Jamaica and then coming up and hitting Kingston as a Category 3. That would be very awful for Jamaica, as you all know, got hit by Hurricane Beryl last July. This would be a very bad situation there. And then it would continue towards southern Cuba, and then eventually not a threat to the U.S., but a threat to the Bahamas, and then heading out to sea. And we would have to watch it for coastal New England and the Atlantic Maritimes in early November, but let's not get that far out because of the amount of uncertainty. And then real quick, we're going to look at the Canadian model, which does not have it hitting Jamaica, but does flirt with Jamaica. It keeps the system weaker, which I don't think would be correct. Brings the system close to Nicaragua and Honduras, but as it sits over the Northwest Caribbean, it tries to turn it into a mini Wilma and strengthens it rapidly, eventually striking Cuba, a la the November Cuba hurricane back from, I believe, the early 30s or late 20s, and then moving quickly northeast as we get to the middle of next week, crossing the Bahamas and then out to sea after that. And then the Icon model, as you can see here, is going to also bring it more westerly, not threatening Haiti directly. Again, getting close to Jamaica, but it just stalls here Thursday night, Friday, and early into the weekend. And then finally, it gets pushed a little bit once that trough leaves and high pressure rebuilds and has a chance to move west. And then it should strengthen as it does so. In fact, it's strengthening more rapidly once we get to this time next week. And I don't think it ever directly hits Central America. But Hurricane Mitch was something we had to watch very closely. We didn't think that one was going to hit either, but it just kind of got slowly drawn in and just created tremendous amounts of flooding. So bottom line, there is a ton of uncertainty. If you look at the regional tropical models, they are, again, all over the place. The HWRF is buying into the GFS solution that it's stronger and makes the turn through Haiti and hits on Thursday and then finds its way into the Turks and Caicos early in the weekend, and then just still is over warm water and is still a hurricane or a strong tropical storm, and then eventually gets pulled away later on in the weekend. The HAVS tropical models are continuing to try to pull the storm towards Haiti as a hurricane, but they just don't make it. They continue to just drift and futz around for several days and strengthen. And this would be really bad for Haiti because of the amount of rain that could potentially fall due to the fact that we have a very slow moving system. Both HAVS models are showing that. They are showing a storm that struggles initially, but then as it slows down and feeds off of that warm water, can strengthen substantially Thursday night, Friday, and in particular over the upcoming weekend. And as you look more closely at what the HAVS is showing, you see the organizational struggles tonight and tomorrow, but you see eventually the storm does get its act together and strengthens when we get later into Wednesday. It is moving close to Haiti as we get to Thursday night, but remember the GFS had it on shore at this point. The HAVS model does not, It says we are going to threaten Haiti, but we are going to stay offshore and strengthen very quickly beginning on Friday night and Saturday morning. And the reason for this uncertainty, as you can see, the GFS is just stronger very quickly. That may or may not be right. The GFS sometimes gets too aggressive too fast. It's a convective feedback issue the model has. And I'm not saying this is not going to happen, but right now I'm very cautious to forecast it. I tend to believe what the other global models are showing. And worst case scenario, this thing is going to hover around Haiti and Jamaica for several days, beginning on Thursday, and maybe even continuing into the early part of next week. And then it could end up in the Western Caribbean if that is correct. For much of next week. This could even be around into November. That's kind of the worst. Regardless, we're going to see a ton of rainfall. The GFS says over 1,000 millimeters of rain. That's over 40 inches of rain somewhere in this purple area. Maybe that's the mountains of Dominican Republic. Maybe that's the coastal waters east of the Turks and Caicos, if it indeed goes that direction. The European says southern Haiti, eastern Jamaica have the risk of over 1,400 millimeters. That is 57, 58 inches of rain. That is absolutely incredible. The Canadian would be our best case solution, but it still brings a lot of rain to Jamaica, over 20 inches, over 500 millimeters, maybe even more. So we're going to talk about this more in the coming days. I want to show you what else is going on in the Pacific. We have a disturbance that is no threat to land, 50% chance. We're not going to lose sleep over that. In the Western Pacific, we do have Fengshen. Fortunately, this one did not strengthen a lot. It spent time over the Philippines. It does have a chance of strengthening and impacting Hainan first and then Vietnam, but mainly a rainmaker. And then, interestingly, we've got a barbershop quartet of storms in the Indian Ocean with Changa singing the lead here at severe tropical storm strength. Maybe something to watch in Madagascar. And then you've got the base here. This is Invest 95S. That'll be our next one. The tenor is Invest 93B, and our baritone is Lost in the Arabian Sea. That one probably has the least amount of chance of developing. So we'll talk about those some more, but I am in an effort to try and draw more folks in. I would like to keep my videos shorter, and life is short. Let's enjoy it while we can. And the great part about enjoying life is going to God every day and giving him all the honor and glory. I end my video with giving that credit where credit is due, and that is to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Jesus is the Word that God created. John 1:14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. And I want to leave you here with that word because it is powerful. It is the very reason I do what I do every day. It is giving glory and honor and telling you all the truth. The weather is very unpredictable. What is predictable is that God is in charge, whether or not you've chosen to make or decided to make that choice, but God is in charge and he is good. He has sent his son to die on the cross so that you have the opportunity to not just live eternally, but to have basically your list of sins completely removed from you and have Jesus pick up the tab for you. And that is the amazing work of God. That is the amazing glory that he has. And that is the reason I'm excited to get up every day. It's to give God the glory back because of what he's done for me. It's a relationship, one that I truly cherish and one that I'm so glad that I've decided to get into back when I did about 13 years ago. So I truly hope that is the decision you've made. If it's not, you're very much welcome to come back here. I will not judge you. That is not my goal. I'm here to welcome everyone. That is who I am personally. And I just know that if you do struggle in your faith, you are not alone. And I'm happy to pray for you. If you have a prayer request, please feel free to list that. So I appreciate everybody's time today on this Monday. We'll be back. As soon as I know more, I will share it with you. But just know that it is okay to be certainly uncertain. That is sometimes how it goes in the weather world. And this will be one of those difficult storms to predict. Thank you all so much. And do me a favor. If you have not yet hit the subscribe button, I'd appreciate that if you did. That will give you the opportunity to see the content as soon as I post it and share it with your friends as well. Thank you all so much. Have a great night.